Between an almost 5-way playoff, one issue that continues to plague the Pro Tour that needs to be fixed, and one of the most incredible stats you will ever hear this entire season, I swear. Let's get into how the Preserve ended and why it ended up being a phenomenal event. But before we get to that, a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, PowerGripUSA.com. If you want premium plastic at a great price, go down to PowerGripUSA.com and use code WildRuns10 for 10% off your order. And not only do they have new releases, they also have compression sleeves that are exclusive in the US to this particular retailer. So Paige Pierce finished her tournament at +3. You may be thinking, okay, +3, like who really cares? But the person that beat her by 1 stroke was 8-month pregnant Katrina Allen. She actually still signed up for the a challenge as well. Surely she could not play that. That's my assumption, but that is madness. So I had to point that out before we get to that MPO and FPO. I think I'm going to start on MPO because it was so freaking electric, and I felt like FPO was more of a whimper. It was madness. There was literally a point where I thought we might get a 5-way playoff. Ultimately, that did not end up happening, but man, that would have been cool. And we have a lot of players to shout out before we even get to the contenders. So first off, Cole. I don't really know what happened in the last 2 rounds, but first round started off so freaking hot with a 14 under. Somehow he only finishes the entire tournament at 20 under, but on that 14 under round, he also had 2 out of bounds and 1 bogey. So while his finish was not great, that is insane to see. We can definitely see the potential for Cole to pull off that perfect round with his Macbethian lifestyle. Next up is KJ USA getting his first cash as an NFS sponsored player. Really not much to say about this, just got 28, and a crazy stat you may not know. He missed cash on 6 tournaments this season. Hopefully this will kickstart a better trend for his season. But then on the flip side, a player that did not do so well is Paul Macbeth, who missed cash, and we might just be in the era where Paul just doesn't really care about disc golf right now. I would totally understand if he is in that mindset. He's got so many things to juggle. Being a father is probably number 1. So at least my perspective is he's kind of saving up his best of the best rounds for Worlds or any other major. Next up, AB back in the top 10. We have been thinking that he's in a bit of a rut for a while, but finishes his final round with 10 under. Never really was in contention of winning, but still a great comeback tournament for him. And somebody who came back hard as well is Simon Lizotte with his first tournament back on tour after his kid. Gets top 10 as well, finishes his final round with 11 under. But the real contenders were, of course, lead card, and then a shark lurking in the waters, Matty-O. There was many points that I was like, why are they even showing Matty-O? Like, he's so far away from it because he is on chase card, but then he had 9 birdies through the first 12 holes. And at that point, I was like, okay, maybe he is in contention. This is crazy, but it could happen. And it just never looked like he could stop birdieing. And oh yeah, did I forget to mention he had a 41-foot putt for par on hole 1, a 42-footer on hole 3, another circle 2 putt on hole 4, and then he rounds out the entire event with a 55-footer in front of everybody for a birdie. He finishes in 3rd place, makes 8 for 8 on a circle 1 putts, and this is his best finish all year. And while I never truly thought he was going to win, there were so many points that it looked like he might actually take it down. But then we get to the chase card, which is where all the madness happens. It was Isaac, Gannon, Kyle, and Ricky. Now, I'm going to be starting with Isaac and Gannon because at least from my perspective, it seemed like there was one hole that kind of put them off the map. Now, sure, there was definitely moments at the end where it looked like they might come back, but for the most part, I think they were basically out of it after a certain hole. Now, even though Isaac did birdie 9 out of the first 12 holes, that still was not enough to have the lead because of 2 bogeys and then hole 13. And then as far as Gannon's round, it looked pretty solid as well until you get to hole 13, and I've watched this footage back so many times. But let's just start with Gannon. So Gannon goes deep on this hole, which is pretty difficult to do. It is not an easy line, but he bounces right off the hill right next to the basket and goes into the water. But then he hits cage and it rolls right back down. And then he putts again and it also rolls right back down. And then he pulls a Paul from Jonesboro a couple years back where he missed like a 50-footer, it rolls down 55 feet, and then he jams it with like 2 seconds of prep. That is exactly what Gannon did. So he gets a double on hole 13 when it looked like he had so much potential to be in the lead. And I guess Isaac and Gannon are just that tight that they have to do the same double. So Isaac does it a little bit differently. He honestly had a great position for a birdie, but the wind was pretty strong and he bounces right off the top of the basket and goes down the hill where Gannon Buhr was. And then Isaac has an air ball for par. And then he hits band and it rolls again, and Isaac makes the exact same type of putt where he gives it 2 seconds of prep and jams it dead center. So they both take down doubles, which at least for me put them out of contention. Now they did end up making it a lot more interesting, but it is crazy to see this when you had so much momentum going into this particular moment, and it looked like Isaac in particular was going to get a lead after this point. And I will spoil it a little bit, Isaac does not end up winning, but some crazy stuff that happened is he did get a couple of chain outs that were so incredibly brutal. Now this was more so in round 1 and 2, but there was definitely moments where it was dead center, not too hard, maybe just a little bit too much spin, which I guess is bad for these Prodigy baskets, but it chains out and everyone was livid at the basket. And there were some awful chain outs on the FPO side as well. And so it really begs the question, why can we not have standardized baskets? It has been an issue for years upon years. The Pro Tour has potential to make it happen. Sure, the companies are sponsoring these events, so they want to have their baskets. I get it, but we need unbranded standardized baskets. It is so required. Everybody wants them. At this high level, they need to know how these chains are going to react. We have had so many spit outs throughout this entire season, but this particular event had so many blatant dead center putts that chained out. And so we really need one company to stand up, do it right, and become the one basket for the entire tour. And I think they really need to address it for the next season because it just feels unfair. And it honestly just makes the sport look cheap. Just get one of the baskets that everyone loves the most, use that on tour, stick a Disc Golf Pro Tour banner, and they just put on that basket. Everyone will know the exact pain points week after week, and they don't have to do this guessing game. But now that the sport is getting to be even more serious, it needs to be addressed now. But with that, let's go on to Kyle and Ricky. So at least in my perspective, it looked like it was going to be a battle between Kyle and Rick. And while their scorecard may not look as good as the others, coming in with a small lead, I thought there was definitely a world where Kyle takes it down. And besides an early bogey from Kyle and Ricky, they were looking to be the top contenders. And I would say there was nothing crazy about Kyle's game, it was just consistent birdies. There was nothing for him that made it look super hard. But before the round even started, I knew that if it was a Kyle versus Ricky battle, that I was probably going to be picking Ricky to win. And basically that is exactly what happened. And going into hole 17, if Kyle could get a birdie, then it looked like he had a very good chance to take it down. But he gets an early tree kick and goes out of bounds. And I gotta say, I didn't really see anybody go out of bounds this entire weekend on hole 17, so that was absolutely brutal, and it really felt like it ruined his chances of winning. And then on the flip side, Ricky just pures it, gets an easy birdie, and so assuming that Ricky can get the birdie, then he will secure his win. But leading up to this, we had so many insane putts from Ricky. This is probably his best weekend the entire season on putting. And not only was it amazing, but he looked so confident the entire way through. And throughout this entire event, Ricky never had the hot round, but he was just so consistent every single round, being just one or two strokes off the hot round. And all that momentum going into hole 18 was exactly what he needed. And I will say on hole 17-18, if Isaac would have been able to go birdie, then he would have gone into a playoff with Rick. That ultimately did not end up happening with an early tree kick on hole 17 and a devastating OB on hole 18. So he finishes in third place despite having so many opportunities to take it down. But as far as Rick goes, he throws some pretty safe shots leading to a birdie, finishing at 34 under. Now Kyle was fighting back with a vengeance, almost threw it in for Albatross from 500 feet away, which would have been insane, but he gets an eagle, finishes in second place at 33 under. And with that, Ricky gets the win, and I feel like Ricky has had a decent season, but he really needed to win this season. He has had 5 podium finishes leading to a ton of cash, but I know Ricky, he does not care about being second or third, he wants that win. And while it would have been so cool to get a Kyle or Isaac win, ultimately just did not pan out, and here's what Ricky had to say.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big momentum shift for sure. Just threw a real bad shot on 2, but yeah, I think that, you know, for me, that's something I do really well is I'm able to bounce back and have that mental edge, and I feel like I kept that today, and that's what makes me play my best disc golf. That's my game, and I'm just glad I could display it today and at Kale's amazing course here and grab another bear.
So with that, let's go on to FPO. So first up, Own definitely did not look locked in and seemed like she was just a little bit burnt out right now. She has had so many back-to-back events that it totally makes sense. I think she just needed a break, but with that, she still finished 5th place, but never really looked like she was in potential to win. Next up, Lorentzen. I think she had so much potential, especially the first 2 rounds. I thought she was really going to clutch up and maybe take it down. She looked so confident putting, and it really felt like she was the Kristen replacement this round, with only 3 missed Circle 1 putts the entire weekend, but ultimately fell short in the final round and finishes in 5th place. Next up, Oliva, playing some of her best disc golf of her entire career, but much like Lorentzen, her final round ended in kind of a whimper, going +2 after 10 holes. It was not looking great, but she finishes 5 birdies after that point, going 3 under, putting her in 4th place. Overall, she had such a good performance, and starting out the first round with 1,007 rated 6 under. This is definitely a nice trend that I would love to see more of from Maria. She has the distance, but it seems like accuracy is her biggest flaw, and if she can clean that up a little bit, I think she has definitely enough talent to be in contention week after week. But I would say the real GOAT of the final round was Rebecca Cox. Coming out of nowhere, even with 2 bogeys on the first couple of holes, she was 7 under through hole 14, 9 birdies. Definitely one of her best showcases the entire season, with 95% fairway hits, 78% circle 1, couple of C2 makes as well. And so she finishes her round with 50% birdie percentage, destroying the rest of the competition. And I gotta say, I did not expect her to finish so strong, but because she was so far behind in the first couple of rounds, she only finishes in 3rd place, but still a great showcase for her. The real battle ended up being Holyn versus Missy, and going into the final round with a 2-stroke lead, Missy looked to be very likely to take it down, but there were so many moments where it looked like Missy was not playing well. And then on the flip side, after Missy played bad, it seemed like Holyn was also trying to play bad. And so it was this weird flip-flop where it seemed like nobody really wanted to win. And so honestly, I'm going to be showcasing most of the highlights of round 1 and 2, and as far as her putting goes, it was pretty good. 8 of 11 for Holyn and 12 of 14 for Missy. But after Holyn was picking up birdie after birdie and Missy gets a bogey on hole 13, it looked like Holyn has this in the bag. All she has to do is just finish it out. And after one insane chain out and a couple of missed putts, it looked like all the confidence had left Holyn. And then we get to hole 15 where it is just disaster. She hits the Mando tree, doesn't miss the Mando, but has to pitch out and then hits another tree on her upshot, leading to a double bogey. And so all Missy had to do at this point was just finish it out, which she still ended up struggling a little bit, bogeying hole 17 and 18. But ultimately, it did not matter. Missy wins by 2 strokes, securing her 3rd win of the season after DDO and US Women's.
Basically only paying attention to Holyn. You know, just stay patient, not get too crazy, don't get anxious, just know that I can do it. Feel like such a freaking warrior after yesterday. I don't even know how I shot what I shot yesterday, and I don't even really remember yesterday at all. So today I was just like, if it's not mine, I don't know what it is, because I wanted it so bad after playing like that yesterday.
So honestly, this is definitely one of those events where if we did have all the Europeans, this probably would have ended up very differently. Now that does not take anything away from Missy, this is still a great win, and her putting was lights out, especially in these high stress moments, so it was definitely a good upward trend for her, but at least as a viewer, it was not that engaging because there were so many bogeys along the way, and it felt like we were not getting great disc golf. But all in all, the Preserve was so fun to watch. I love this course, I love that it is kind of birdie or die, and I really don't love these baskets. I want to get it standardized, and I hope that in time they will finally figure out what needs to be done to make it happen. So with that, what do you think about this course, and what did you think about the finish? I would love to hear what you guys think, and with that, be sure to go to powergripusa.com and pick up some brand new plastic using code WildRuns10 for 10% off your order. Thank you guys so much for watching, I really appreciate it. With that, WildRuns signing out, peace.